Seems I heard about a shot like that being made not too long ago. Said the guy's name was Bob Lee Swagger. Never met the man, so I wouldn't know.
Yeah, they said that, all right.
They also said that artificial sweeteners were safe, and WMDs were in Iraq, and Anna Nicole married for love.
Right, there I was last night, armed with nothing but diminished expectations and a healthy scepticism about Mark Wahlberg's ability to carry anything more complex than a protein shake. I was settling in for what I assumed would be 2 hours of confused staring and Bostonian mumbling. Imagine my surprise when Shooter turned out to be a rather decent piece of conspiracy thriller nonsense. They managed to keep me glued to the screen despite featuring Hollywood's most perpetually bewildered leading man. Antoine Fuqua's 2000 adaptation of Stephen Hunter's novel, Point of Impact, follows Bob Lee Swagger. And yes, that's the name, because subtlety is apparently a foreign concept. He's a retired Marine sniper living in splendid isolation in the Wyoming mountains. Swagger gets dragged back into service by Danny Glover's Colonel Jackson to help prevent a presidential assassination, only to find himself spectacularly framed for the very crime he was meant to prevent. What follows is essentially The Fugitive meets 3 Days of the Condor, with a healthy dose of military fetishism thrown in for good measure. The plot, while admittedly far-fetched, makes just enough sense to keep you invested. The real target isn't the president, but an Ethiopian archbishop who's about to expose American corporate malfeasance in Africa. The sort of conspiracy that feels plausible enough in our current political climate, which is either a testament to this writer's prescience or a damning indictment of how cynical we've all become. Now let's address the elephant in the room, Mark Wahlberg himself. The man is exactly one acting setting, confused but determined, and by God he's going to stick with it. Whether he's playing a cop, a soldier, a teacher, or apparently a highly skilled sniper, you get the same furrowed brow, the same slightly agitated delivery, and the same general sense that he's not entirely sure why he's there, but he's committed to seeing it through. But here's the thing, and I can't quite believe I'm saying this, it actually works for this particular role. Bob Lee Swagger is supposed to be a man of few words, a straightforward soldier who's more comfortable with a rifle than conversation. Wahlberg's natural limitations as an actor accidentally align with the character's personality. He's not trying to be charming or witty. He's just a competent killing machine with trust issues, which is well within Wahlberg's very narrow wheelhouse. Thankfully, the film surrounds Wahlberg with actors who actually know what they're doing. Danny Glover brings genuine menace to his role as the villainous Colonel Johnson, almost cartoonish at times, proving that he's come a long way from being too old for this shit. Michael Pena provides solid support as the FBI agent, who gradually realises the conspiracy goes deeper than expected, and so does his spine by the end of this. And his chemistry with Wahlberg actually helps sell their unlikely partnership. Kate Mara appears as the widow of Swagger's deceased and betrayed spotter, and while her role is fairly thankless, she manages to bring some gravitas to what could have been a throwaway love interest. We don't see enough of her, despite her being down to her bra and scanties at one point. Ned Beatty, he chews scenery with relish as the corrupt senator behind the conspiracy, reminding us why character actors are often more memorable than leading men. Where Shooter genuinely succeeds is its technical execution. Fuqua knows how to stage action sequences, and the film's various shootouts and chase scenes are filmed with clarity and purpose. The movie takes its firearms seriously, perhaps too seriously for some, with lengthy discussions of ballistics and shooting techniques and wrapping bullets that will either fascinate or bore you depending on your tolerance for military minutiae. The film's pacing is generally solid, builds tension effectively as Swagger's situation becomes increasingly desperate. There's a workmanlike efficiency to the whole affair that keeps you engaged, even when the plot threatens to spiral into complete absurdity. The movie knows what it is, a B-grade thriller with A-grade production values. and it doesn't need to be anything more pretentious. One point of caution though, don't pour granulated sugar into wounds as a battlefield dressing. Not now, not today. Shooter wears its political heart on its sleeve, presenting a deeply cynical view of American foreign policy and corporate influence. The film's villains are essentially war profiteers who manipulate conflicts for financial gain, which isn't exactly a subtle metaphor. The movie's anti-establishment message is delivered with all the finesse of a sniper's bullet to the head, but given recent history, its paranoia feels more justified than hysterical. The film's treatment of military veterans is particularly interesting. Swagger represents the honourable soldier betrayed by the system he served, a theme that resonates in an era of endless foreign interventions and questionable military adventures. It's jingoistic in its love of military hardware and tactics, while simultaneously being deeply suspicious of military leadership and government authority. Shooter earned a modest $95.7 million worldwide against a $61 million budget, which is respectable if not spectacular. Critics were mixed, with many noting the film's genre cliché and plot contrivances, but audience seemed more forgiving. The film's found a second life on home video and streaming, probably because it delivers exactly what it promises: competent action sequences, political paranoia, and Mark Wahlberg shooting people with extreme prejudice. The film's 48% critical score on Rotten Tomatoes versus its 80% audience score tells you everything you need to know. It's not high art, nor does it pretend to be. It's meat and potatoes thriller that knows its target audience and delivers accordingly. Sometimes that's enough. Despite my natural inclination to mock anything featuring Mark Wahlberg's perpetually confused expression, Shooter manages to win me over through sheer competence and commitment to its own ridiculous premise. The sort of movie that works best when you check your critical faculties at the door and just kick back and enjoy watching bad people get their comeuppance in increasingly violent ways. The film succeeds because it doesn't try to be more than it's not. It's not The Departed or Three Kings, movies where Wahlberg's limitations were masked by superior direction, writing and bigger characters alongside him. Instead, it's a straightforward revenge thriller that plays to its strengths while surrounding him with enough competent filmmaking to keep the whole enterprise afloat. Would I watch it again? Probably not voluntarily, but I wouldn't change the channel if I stumbled across it. In an era of increasingly complex and self-referential action films, there's something refreshing about a movie that simply wants to tell you about a man with a gun who shoots the people who wronged him. Sometimes simplicity is its own virtue, and even when delivered by Hollywood's most reliable bewildered leading man. And one last point, this was shot on actual 35mm film, and by God it looks glorious. So, 3 out of 5 from me. Worth a watch if you're in the mood for a competent military thriller and can tolerate Wahlberg's unique brand of confused intensity. I'm great.